Week 16, the biggest bankers in the country demanding a deal on that fiscal cliff. But after hearing the president today, don't bank on it. Welcome, everybody. I'm Neil Cavuto, and you would think the White House would be jumping to make a deal after this. 16 CEOs of the country's biggest banks signing a letter warning the country and the economy is toast if we don't see signs of a deal fast, saying interest rates would spike and a second downgrade of our debt would likely follow. But as they're begging for a deal, President Obama saying that he would veto any deal unless tax hikes on the rich are included. Well, good luck getting that by Republicans, because they say that ain't happening. So apparently neither is any deal. And the doomsday scenario these bankers are picturing now suddenly looking a lot more likely. Credit Suisse Chairman Craig Smith says the president is playing with fire, and we're the ones who stand to get burned. Explain, Craig.
I think it's frightening what will happen here, Neil. I mean, these banks are correct. And, of course, they're in consensus with the IMF. They're in consensus with the CBO. 14 of the 17 major economists in the world said this could be not only a recession, but a severe recession. And as you and I have talked about before, Neil, I'm very concerned about another downgrade on our debt. We need to continue to borrow money. No matter how you slice this fiscal cliff, Neil, it's horrendous for the future of the nation. And for Mr. Obama, during a campaign stop, to go out and say that he would veto legislation like this, it just goes to show he has no concept how economics work, Neil.
You know, I know this got a lot of media attention today. It wasn't exactly a Fox alert to me in this sense, Craig. This is nothing new. He has always said that this would be his kind of fiscal holy grail. He would not, again, extend the tax rates, the lower tax rates for the rich one more year. When he did so back in 2010, it was with an understanding that it wouldn't be for too long, and the time has come for them to go up. So is he just getting in a tough early negotiating point, or do you fear something worse?
Well, I sure hope it's not for that reason, Neil, for negotiation purposes, because keep in mind when he went at it with John Boehner and Eric Cantor back in summer of 2011 for raising the debt ceiling, if you believe what Bob Woodward wrote in his book, it was ugly. And the visceral distaste, if you will, the dislike that this president has for achievers, for businesses, for people that are good high-income earners is just I just don't get it, Neil. I mean, these, like the banks, for example, that you led with, 16 of these banks are saying, Mr. President, this is critical. You can't play politics with this.
But aren't they also, here's where I think the president might be setting a trap for them and for anyone who criticizes what he's doing. Maybe, for all I know you, Craig. He could be saying this. Look, if you're saying that the only thing blocking Armageddon is a tax hike on the Great Papon crowd, then sign me up for that PR fight, because I'm willing to fight it. How do Republicans then answer that they would then turn it around, sacrifice the economy, the cliff, everything you just talked about for one of keeping rates low on the rich?
Well, this is simple. I mean, all the Republicans have to do is point back to history. What did Jack Kennedy do? What did Ronald Reagan do? Every time you lower tax rates and you open and spread open the base, you gain more revenue.
No, I agree with you on that, but I would one-up you on that, Craig. I would say, look, if your argument a couple of years ago, Mr. President, was that you didn't want to, besides having to counter Republicans on extending them, but you saved face by saying now is not the time to be raising them because the economy is still pretty rocky. We are actually rockier now than we were then. In other words, growth of the economy is less than it was then. So with that argument taken away, this is really, you know, a brazen political move that might or might not work, but it's pretty clear where he's going to be coming from.
Absolutely, Neil. This is 100% politics, because you can't look at the math. Look, maybe this president doesn't read his presidential daily briefings from his intelligence people, but he's clearly not reading the CBO report. So I reviewed the CBO report just before I came down to the studio.
That's what I love about you. You always do your homework. God bless you.
Well, there's no, look, they're saying 9.1% unemployment. They're saying 2 million jobs lost, Neil. They're saying, look, if you extend everything, and you have to go deep in the report to see this, they say we could see 4 to 4.5% growth in 2013. If we don't extend it, you're going to see growth between 0.8% and 1.7%. Neil, this is a simple equation. The president should be saying we have to extend this. I'm going to do what's best for the country. I'm not going to try and gin up my base because, look, right now, let's make sense. He's not going after the middle of the road voter. He's trying to gin up his base to get support because he's losing that middle American voter right now. The polls are pretty clear
think
about
this is a strategy. I do think it's part of jazzing and getting that base happy. But I also think, you know, you don't want to look like you're changing your mind and flipping on this so early.
Sure.
So there's a double
Sure,
kind of strategy. I'm not saying it's necessarily great strategy, but there is a method to this.
Oh, no doubt, Neil. And think about it from a political standpoint. He would have to say that he's breaking his word again because in 2010, like you said, Neil, he made it clear, I will not do this again. Yeah. So if he was to acquiesce on it now, he'd have to say that he gave back another promise to the left. So, yeah. But here's the bottom line, Neil, and this is what's important to Fox Business News people. This has ramifications. It's not like this is just going to come and go and everything's going to be fine. The banks are warning, the IMF is warning, the CBO is warning. I know in my personal business, I've talked to businessmen all over the country. They're going to pull in their horns in 2013. Why not make 2013 a year of growth instead of a year of stagnation? Why don't we grow the economy versus trying to divide a stagnant economy up? He's not making sense. He should have never promised a veto on this, Neil.
All right. So you're clearly not on the re-elect Barack Obama bandwagon. Craig Smith, thank you very much. Good seeing you again. We got John Layfield now and Katie Pavlich, who insists it is the president bringing us to